Bill Henshaw here again, your friendly local constitutional counselor from California. And I've just come up with a tremendous take on the only right they think we have in the just us system. And that's the right to effective assistance of counsel. And what we're going to be doing, because those of you that have been through the wars before, you know damn well all they recognize are state bar association attorneys and or pro se litigants with specious, frivolous, sovereign citizen arguments, otherwise known as the original intent of those racist framers. So the big deal here is this: we've never been heard, we're never going to be, unless we make contact, and we're going to demand the judge sign an order if necessary uh, to allow us to consult counsel. And probably part of the process will be that you'll be getting an email and you send him my document packets, in the email and tell him you had serious structural jurisdictional errors that you want to challenge and you need his help to do it, or to tell you if you're wrong exactly why you are. And he can't do that. Nobody in the de facto National Socialist government can do that. So that means not only he has to represent you, but it's pro bono, free, effective assistance of counsel. He follows the documents. We get a hearing on the record, which probably won't happen, by the way, because when those documents get filed, what's going to happen is the charges are going to get quietly dismissed with prejudice to the cause. They simply can't come out and tell us the truth. And without that, we have no way to put on a defense. And oh, by the way, this is a great window of time for this. Right place, right time. Trump knows about this. I'm pretty sure Bondi does. And I know damn well the current justices of the U.S. Supreme Court know. Oh, by the way, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and I'll tell you more about this and how we do this. And this looks like the proverbial winner chicken dinner here. Because if we're not going to be heard, and you're going to get in my materials, and I'll point out what you carefully want to read from the U.S. Supreme Court and the Constitution about our right to be heard. And it's nowhere throughout the whole system, and you're going to learn that includes quote unquote elections, and there hasn't been a lawful election in sight in 160 years. You'll learn all about that too. Send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com, and we start beating them on this issue. And they have to do it because, and by the way, these state bar association members, if you don't know, have an irreconcilable conflict of interest with all of the unopposed constitutional issues that I advocate. But that's not our problem. We have a right to be heard in a common law judicial court. And you're going to learn, by the way, there are none of those known to be in existence, despite the fact all the original 32 states, except Louisiana, were admitted as common law states. Anyway, send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com for more information. And you have to wonder what happened here. And you're going to learn exactly what happened, how it happened, why it happened. And now we get to take our case to the U.S. Supreme Court. And they've been basically doing their job and going into their sixth term now. They're not all the way there yet, but they know exactly what I'm talking about, which is the non-existent 14th War Amendment. Ain't never existed, doesn't exist, but that's the only body politic this de facto system recognizes. That's it. What I call subordinate, corporate, and dead birthright citizens with an SH. That's all they recognize. You have no rights the de facto government is bound to respect. That's the biggest change we can make. It benefits you, your children, and your posterity. Send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com. And it also sets up, as you're going to learn, when these actors go into their executive administrative tribunals. And this has been a red hot issue in the U.S. Supreme Court recently. And we can take it further if we need to. Because let's think about this. How do you have a judicial officer in an executive administrative tribunal? Can you say separation of powers? Oh, hello. We're not doing any bullshit 42 USC 1983 due process, equal protection. 14th Amendment doesn't exist. It never has. You do the real issues, and like the Supreme Court says in its informal rules that almost nobody knows about, the court will not rule on an issue of constitutional law in the advance of the necessity of deciding it. You don't ask, we won't answer. And they know that the attorneys either aren't going to know these issues or they're going to have conflict of interest unless we force them ahead, which is what we're going to be doing here to do their job and at least get the charges dismissed. And that's going to go a long way too. But you're going to learn that all these official actors, quote unquote, none of whom have been lawfully elected or appointed, are committing multiple acts of treason to the Constitution. And that's where the big paydays are going to come. Because you're doing that and you're a law school graduate and a supposed expert on the law and you know all this and you're still violating your oath of office? Oh, hello. That doesn't work. But the way the system currently runs, it never gets there because all people do is fight these damn civil rights crap statutes under the 14th Amendment. Totally useless. And by the way, I should say here that I am a flat out, you know, white supremacist. There's no question about it. That's the winning argument. If we get back to the original government, which is what that was, now everybody has rights, even if you're only inhabitants of territories, let alone inhabitants of states. You have creator endowed enforceable rights. Now, there's a way to make that change. If you want to add to the sovereign body politic, I'll be talking more about that in another video. There is a way to do it, but it sure as hell didn't happen during the war between the states and Reconstruction. Nothing like that occurred. So that's what's exciting here. And no one knows. They don't teach this stuff in school. I never heard it all those decades ago. And I went to school outside of Washington, D.C. Never heard it. By the way, send me an email, uwinnincourt@gmail.com for more information on how to do this. And this, and it wins across the board, by the way. And I should say here also, this includes other cases. The criminal cases is a no-brainer. But even evictions and foreclosures and CPS, you name it. They're all federal, regional, martial law rule. That's why you see the yellow flames around the flag so very often. That's a military standard, according to the U.S. Attorney General. But you're not in the Army, are you? How are they exercising jurisdiction? Send me an email, uwinnincourt@gmail.com. You're going to learn all about this. And by the way, I also can use some help here if you can make connections for me or can do it yourself. One of the big things I want to do is my own uh, series of videos for school children and teach them the truth, about the history of the Constitution and history and laws and history of the United States. It's not out there anymore. Once you understand those facts, now you're really set up, and it's going to be very hard for the system to get over you, and your children and your posterity can teach their children, and they're going to be not only smart enough, but if and when they get on jury duty, they'll know they have the power to rule on the facts and the law. That's going to stop the bastards in their tracks. And that's what we need to have happen, and a couple of other things I'm working on as well. But as I said, send me an email, uwinnincourt@gmail.com. It's very exciting stuff here. So if I can get it back, it'll help me do some videos here, probably locally, probably on Zoom. And we get this out. This is going to sell to a lot of people, especially those who homeschool their children, and get the real truth here, which you haven't seen in the public school system in 90 or 100 years, and maybe longer than that. They haven't been teaching it, and there's a good reason for it. So it's just all exciting here. It really is. Send me an email, uwinnincourt@gmail.com. And as I say, remember to like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we start revoking our rights, the quicker we get these bastards off our backs. Thank you.